Welcome to the Beach Bucket Podcast, coming to you from Ocean City, New Jersey, where we talk about all things Jersey Shore and interview local business owners, luminaries, and legends. And as always, discuss our favorite local restaurants and who's got the best slice, the best cup of coffee, and breakfast on the island. So get comfortable and welcome to this episode of the Beach Bucket Podcast. Welcome to this episode of the Beach Bucket Podcast. Today I'm talking with Brian Hartley, Vice President of Playlands Castaway Cove, the oldest amusement park in Ocean City, New Jersey. Welcome to the podcast, Brian.
Thanks for having me.
Let's talk a little bit about Castaway Cove. How long have you been there?
I have been here since 1992, so this is going to be my 32nd summer, which seems crazy. But we're going to go at it again this year and hope for another successful season.
Now, how did you get involved?
So my family started working here over the years, really back from the 60s, just part-time in the summertime. My aunts, uncles, my father worked for the phone company. So during some of the strike years with the phone company, he worked here during the summertime. And it just kind of became a family affair. My uncle was a school teacher. He worked here doing maintenance and some light work in the summertime. So when my sister and I turned 14, we applied for positions, and I've been here really ever since.
Now, did you start working as a ride operator?
Yeah. So back then, 14 and 15-year-olds were able to work a few rides. Basically, they were non-mechanical rides. We had a train crosser. We had a small bounce house. We have the super slide, which we still have. And we had a ball crawl, which is kind of like one of those ball things you would see at McDonald's playgrounds and Chick-fil-A and things like that. So those were really the four rides that we were able to work until you turned 16 years old. And then you could really work any ride that was here, because with the laws, you were then able to work the mechanical rides. So I started doing that, started doing some cleanup in the mornings over the years, sweeping around the park, doing some light greasing on some rides, and then eventually worked my way up to assisting with the manager that was doing all the hiring, scheduling, and training. And then after he left in 2001, I was able to take over for that position, and have been kind of doing that ever since.
That's great. So you literally worked your way up to vice president.
I have done every job here, from scrubbing toilets and sweeping to, making the big decisions on what's going on for next year, and helping make decisions on what rides we're going to purchase, and dealing with the state of New Jersey, payroll, scheduling, hiring. Yeah, I kind of dabble in everything.
Now, let me ask you, do you try out most of the rides?
Yeah, I'm kind of known as the guinea pig when we go to the trade show. I'm the guy that gets thrown on the rides and has to kind of report back to Scott, the owner, of, what I think. We've been talking about maybe in the next year or two, maybe taking the kids down to the trade show and having them try out some of the stuff as well, because obviously on some of the kiddie rides, an adult reaction isn't really the same as the kids. So it's always a good way. We see a lot of other families that are down there, and you kind of get a unique perspective when you can put kids on there and get their reaction on what they think. So, I traveled around the country when we were looking at the gale force, trying to decide what we wanted to do. And we went to different parks and road rides and looked at them, discussed maintenance and good things and bad things, so that we could really come up with a good comprehensive coaster that would work for us and be exciting for the general public.
That's kind of got to be a fun job.
It is fun. Back then I was single, had a little more time to travel. Now with 4 kids, it's a little different. It's a little harder when you go to the trade shows, leaving the wife and kids behind. But it is exciting, seeing what's out there. It really is amazing how much the technology has changed over the last 30 years and what they're able to do now, and compared to back then with a lot of the safety mechanisms and everything else. So it's exciting. It's a constantly evolving business.
Now, what is your kid's favorite ride?
So lately, they've really started to get into the alien abduction and the tidal wave. Seem to be the two rides that they enjoy the most. They're starting to get a little bit older, a little bit more adventurous. It's funny how we see kids today really seem to grow out of the kiddie rides at a much smaller age and really graduate to some of the bigger rides, the roller coasters that we offer and some of the other cool rides. But, their Scream Machine used to be their favorite ride when they were 3, 4, 5 years old. Now that they're 6 and 7, they're moving up. They really enjoy the wild waves, the tidal wave, and the alien abduction. They talk about constantly all winter. about how they like to stick to the wall and go around super fast. So it's pretty funny to listen to them. And they absolutely love it. My one son, he tries to ride it over and over. We have to force him to take a break just to try to keep him from getting sick or spaced out.
I love
But he'd
that.
ride it. He'd ride it continuously if we let him.
I love that, and I love the swings. You got to love the swings.
Yeah, definitely. The swings is a great family ride. My wife doesn't enjoy that too much, so I usually get stuck having to go on that with them when they want to go.
Now, I love that Playlands Castaway Cove has both the thrill rides and the family fun rides, so there's something for everyone.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing is really finding a balance. Like I said, that smaller age group has become more adventurous and they're kind of graduating from the kiddie rides up. So, we try to keep a balance for the small kids, the infants and toddlers, all the way up to the parents and the adults, because we get that mixture of all age groups coming in here and even the grandparents. So, we have great family rides like the train, the merry-go-round, our beach buggy rides. Those are 3 rides for the smaller kids that the families really seem to enjoy to ride, all the way up to the thrill rides with the Gale Force and the Wild Waves and the Squadron 33, which was newer a couple of years ago. So it's really important to strike a balance for all the age groups because, we have such a wide range of customer base that comes here that without that, it would be a struggle. And we're different than a lot of other parks. We're a seashore resort, which makes it really hard because we have limited space. So I know a lot of people talk about how it gets crowded. There's not a lot of room to move around sometimes. But, we're trying to put as much in here as we can to give you as much bang for your buck when you're here. We're not a Great Adventure. We might have the same amount of rides as Great Adventure. They're spaced out. We've got to fit it all into this small park. So we're trying to put as much in here and give as much diversity as we can for our customers.
Now, you have over 30 rides, which is pretty impressive considering the amount of space you're working with.
Yeah, that's correct. And every time we try to swap something out and upgrade, which we're constantly trying to do, trying to bring in new rides, keep things fresh so that it gives people something exciting to look forward to each season. But it's not easy because, again, you look for a new ride. It might not fit with what you're looking to take out. So then it involves moving and shuffling a couple rides here or there, which makes it difficult. But we're always looking at new stuff and always trying to keep things fresh.
What does it take getting ready for the summer to open up?
It's a lot of work. There's a lot of people that think we kind of close up in October and we just kind of pack up and disappear for a couple months. And that's certainly not the case. We have a full-time crew of 18 people that are here year round between mechanics, management, and, we have a variety of different things here besides just rides. We have 2 miniature golf courses. We have go-karts. We have Krebs Pizza. We have Dairy Queen. So it takes a full staff of people to do that. Our maintenance guys work all winter just tearing things apart, repacking bearings, greasing things, painting, fixing things up for next year. We have a rigorous inspection system that we go through and checklist each winter to keep things going, making sure everything's been checked and safe and ready to go for the following season. So there's really no downtime other than about 2.5 weeks after Christmas time where everybody's off. But other than that, we're here all the time. It's constantly ordering parts and just like I said, reworking different rides every year. We're picking different rides to do more and more stuff on. But there's a list that goes on every single year of things that have to be done to keep these things going. It's not like we can just, shrink wrap them outside and say, great, and come back and turn the light switch on, the following spring and say we're good to go. It takes every bit of winter. And when Easter is earlier, it's harder because you have a much shorter time frame. So this year, Palm Sunday weekend is April 1st. That's when we'll open up. So really, we're about 2 weeks at this point from trying to start putting rides back outside and start setting up for the season.
Now, you talked a little bit about concessions. What concessions are available at the park?
So in our food stand in the middle of the park right now, we offer Dippin' Dots. We have Dairy Queen. We offer soft pretzels, cotton candy, popcorn, and nachos. And then hopefully sometime this summer, we'll get our building back open on the front of the boardwalk. And up front there, we'll have our arcade, which we'll have again. Dippin' Dots up front. We'll have a full Dairy Queen back on the boardwalk at some point. And then we have a new tenant that's going to be hopefully moving into the other store for Hamburger Construction now that Frank has retired. But we have a lot to offer. Obviously all sorts of soda, Coke products, and different things like that. But, what we don't offer here, a lot of people offer out on the boardwalk. It's competitive because there's so many different things that people can get up here on the boardwalk. So we try to keep it a little different here in the park that you can't just get up there.
Now, you've started the hiring process, I'm sure.
Yes, we have. We started doing interviews 2 weeks ago. We hired about 15 kids, and we actually have another round of interviews going tomorrow. And then at the end of the month, we start what I'll call our job fair circuit. We start with Ocean City on Friday at the end of the month. And then we have Mainland the following week. We go to Great Egg Harbor, ACIT. So it's, every year we're looking to hire about 40 to 50 new kids. Between that and the ones that we have coming back, and then a handful of international students, that's really what makes up our staff for the season of anywhere between 250 to 300 kids.
Wow, that's a lot of employees to manage over the course of a summer.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's a full-time gig in the spring. It's exhausting at times because, when we're trying to train the kids, it's a difficult training process because they don't get out of school till 3:00. We're open on the weekends. So we're doing a lot of training after school till about 9 at night. And the biggest thing is safety. We want to stress that. So we try to get them in here, try to give them as much as we can, and we want them running the ride. So we're trying to give them some time to operate. And then, when we do hire them, they come in. They don't go to work right away by themselves. They work with other operators from previous seasons on a ride, so they're never alone until they can kind of get their feet wet. So it's we have a whole plan that really has worked out well for years, and safety is number one. So that's our biggest priority.
Of course. Now, when you train a kid, are they working on the same ride consistently, or do you switch them around? How does that work?
Yeah, we switch them around to try to keep them fresh. So a lot of the rides are similar with the safety aspects. It's just more of the startup operation on the ride that might be a little different. But the safety aspects are really similar from ride to ride. So that's the thing that we stress the most, and that goes with you as you move around. But when we do the initial training, they'll learn about 7 or 8 of the basic kiddie rides. And like I said, they'll go to work and they'll work with other operators for hours and hours and hours before they're ever put out a couple of weeks later on their own. But even then, we have 12 full-time mechanics that are around, plus myself and 2 other managers. So we're always out there with them, always working with them, making sure that, should they have any questions, any issues, they all know, to go ahead and ask. They shouldn't have to worry about that. So it's a lot in the spring. It's every year. I kind of equate it to teaching. Every year we kind of go through the same routine, but it's just a new class. So we've kind of got it down to a science on how we do it and our approach. It seems to work. But again, like the rides, we're always trying to change that up. Each generation learns differently and, has different things. Back in my day, we didn't have cell phones and distractions. So now that things like that have to be implemented in your training plan and how to handle that. So it's always changing. Technology makes it easier to do some of the things. So, we provide them with as much information as we can. So far, it's worked out well. And
what are you looking for in an employee?
Well, we're really in the customer service industry here. So that's our number one thing. We need kids that can communicate. And that's been one of the biggest problems lately, to be honest with you, is a lot of kids struggle with communication skills because they mainly communicate via text. They're not really having a lot of conversations one-on-one. So we find that when we bring the kids in for an interview, it's a struggle when they're sitting there, a 14 to 16-year-old kid talking to a couple of adults and trying to have a conversation. And most of them don't have any job experience. So this is going to be their first job. So we're really asking them a lot about themselves, what their interests are, what they enjoy. And sometimes it's like pulling teeth from them. It's difficult and not easy. Other kids, they're very outgoing. They have a lot of social skills, and that's really what we want. But we're looking for kids that are outgoing, kids that want to learn. And then sports plays a big role. Unfortunately, some kids play some sports that just aren't conducive to our schedule. Crew is really difficult because they're all on weekends. Football is really difficult because that starts up midsummer. And then again, is a lot of nights and weekends in the fall, which is, when we need a lot of kids because our college kids have left, our international kids are leaving. So, in our application process and the interview process, we try to kind of pull that information out of them. What is your availability, and try to gauge their personalities. And, a lot of times it's great. Kids that maybe are a little quieter come here, and because we have such a big staff, they end up making a lot of friends, and it kind of pulls them out of their shell. And you'll even talk to the parents as the summer goes on and say, they really enjoyed it. They made a lot of friends. They really are more talkative now. So it's really a great thing. We have a lot of kids that meet each other, and it's great to see them the following season, because you find out that they've all been hanging out in groups because they met here all winter long, whether just getting together on a weekend or they're going someplace and hanging out, or they're still communicating. So it's exciting to see that.
And now, do you have good employee retention? Do kids tend to want to come back summer after summer?
Yeah, we do. We're usually at about 80% each year.
That's great.
So that's exciting. And a lot of the kids that move on really are more college age kids that are graduating. We have a lot of kids that are with us 5, 6, 7 years, but as they graduate from college, obviously it's time to kind of get out in the real world and look for a full-time job. And we totally get that. And we end up with a lot of people that are teachers as well, that have been with us, that stay with us for even more years. They kind of move into either a management role, or they work on our ticket booth as a cashier. So, I mean, we have some employees that have been with us 30, 40 years as well, working out there on rides or working in the ticket booths, because their schedule fits. It's a natural fit between teaching in the winter and they're looking for a summer job, which is obviously when we need people. So we've been very fortunate that way. And we have a lot of older staff, some retired people, which we absolutely love, because their schedules are flexible. They're the kind of people that you can put on a ride and not have to worry about it. That they're going to do the job, and, you can kind of focus on some of the newer staff on some of the other rides.
And in addition to having an amusement park and an arcade, you also have 2 19-hole mini golf courses. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we actually have 3. We have 19 holes at 9th Street, Seaport Village, and then Golden Galleon has a north and a south side, and they each have 19 holes. So it's they're a whole nother job. Every day I'm the guy that lays the carpets on the greens when we're redoing the carpets or redoing holes. So it's exciting. We all have to multitask and get down there. But yeah, I mean, those properties open at 9:00 in the morning every day, and they're open till 11 at night. So there's always something going on here. Basically 7 days a week from Palm Sunday weekend all the way through the middle of October.
Now, in January of 2021, there was a major fire at Castaway Cove. I want to talk a little bit about that and how that impacted the amusement park. What happened?
Yeah, so we ended up, after going through all the insurance and dealing with the ATF and everybody else that did the investigation, ended up being an electrical fire that started in the front north corner of the building. Unfortunately, it really just devastated the entire building, which was our arcade, our Dairy Queen, our one tenant, and all of our office space. So, we were fortunate that we had other office space here in the back of the park that we've been in ever since then. We've been working on trying to get the building going. Just hit some roadblocks that have just slowed things up. COVID, materials, supply chains, dealing with paperwork issues here in town, just with trying to get on zoning and planning schedules and getting things lined up. But it's been a long process. Anybody that's been up here recently, you'll see that the skeleton of the building, the steel and the concrete is up. We're starting to work on the interior and then trying to get the building kind of sealed up, get the roof on, so we can really start to focus on the interior of the building. But in the meantime, it's a lot of planning going in. That building was old. It was from World's Fair back in the early 1940s and was moved here. And, unfortunately, new code has changed a lot of the way we've had to design this new building, between fire sprinkler suppression systems and all sorts of other things that have to be done to meet the new code that we didn't have before. Have just added cost and a lot of delays to the building. So we're hoping to have it finished sometime this summer. It's probably tracking right now, late July, early August. So we're excited about that. It does make it a little difficult trying to hire, because obviously, the Dairy Queen, it involves maybe a dozen people working up there. So it's hard to hire a dozen people in the beginning of the season and give them enough hours working in the back where there's not as much volume as there would be. But you have to plan ahead, and you have to anticipate that at some point that's going to open. And the same with the arcade. You're going to be hiring people, and maybe they're going to be working in the rides, because as we all know, come late July, early August, there isn't exactly a ton of people knocking on the door looking for work at that point. Most people have already had their job, and you're starting to lose your college kids. So we're going to have to, we're going to have to absorb that extra cost in payroll for the spring until we get to that point. But hopefully we'll have those people in place and be able to hit the ground running. The building's exciting. We're really looking forward to it. We've already ordered and have a lot of the games in storage. So, we've started working on as much as we can and as far as putting some things together in our warehouses. So that way, as soon as we're able to start moving stuff into the building, that will expedite that process and hopefully be able to get open even quicker. But, a lot's going to depend on weather in the next few months and supplies and all that. But it's been a long, long process. That's for sure. It's exhausting.
What was the impact on the amusement area?
So the biggest impact on that was really that about 7 rides were affected because the electric fed out of that building to those rides. So that was really our first thing that we did, was to try to get the electric back to those rides and our food stand that ran from that building. So those rides didn't open until May of 21. And those rides basically were the Ferris wheel, the Speedway, the Buccaneer, Double Shot, merry-go-round, whirlwind, bumper cars, and then our food stand in the back. All that in that vicinity of the back end of the building fed out of there. So it took us probably 2 months of just nonstop. I mean, long days, long hours of trying to get that building built and then get all that wire fed back into that building, get the final inspection and be able to get those rides turned on. There wasn't much affected from the actual rides other than in the wintertime, we would store some things in there. So we had stored our helicopter ride and our balloon ride in the building. So the vehicles for those were completely destroyed. We were fortunate that we had just bought a new helicopter ride to replace the one. Mm-hmm. So we actually had that in storage from the summer before it came in. So that ride was, easily replaced with the new one. But the balloon ride, it took us an entire season to get the new vehicles for that. So we didn't have that for 21. And then once we got the new balloon tubs, we actually ended up selling the ride and moving some things around to use that space a little differently. But it took a lot of work because, again, a lot of those rides are really our most popular rides. Ferris wheel and the Double Shot, and bumper cars, they're very, very popular rides. So our goal was to really make sure we got those things up and running before Memorial Day, before people really started to come down and notice an impact. So that was really goal number one. Once we were able to get in there, but it took us so long to be able to do anything until they finished their inspections and everything else, that it just kept delaying it. But that was goal number one, and we got it. Like I said, it was a lot of hard work, but we made it and got everything back up and running.
Now, I know you guys do a big ticket sale push over Christmas. How did that go?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, we're seeing back to normal numbers. And, we had a big lull, obviously, in 2020 and 21 with COVID. So, that hurt. We had changed our hours. And, obviously, the first year people had to wear masks. The next year it was back and forth, even though we were outside. And then in 2021, I mean, it was huge. That summer when everybody was able to get back out was crazy. Last year kind of leveled back off, but our numbers are right back where we want them to be. So we're excited about that. And that usually gives us a pretty good indication of what to expect for the next summer. We obviously have our next sale, which is really our big sale at Easter time. And that's April 1st to the 15th. And, we always encourage anybody to take advantage of our ticket sales. They're 50% off. It's the best time of year to buy Christmas and Easter every year. That's really when you can save yourself a lot of money. But, we're judging our Christmas sale. We're expecting another great summer this year.
Yeah, it was a great Christmas sale. I got tickets for my nephews over at Ocean City Coffee Company. And you also do really nice packages for groups and for birthday parties.
Yeah, we've started that. We put out an email blast last week because we're limited because we're only open weekends in April, May, and September, October. So, that's really the busy time of year. We've always seen that we have more and more parties, I think, in the spring and fall than we do all summer long, even though we're open 7 days a week at that point, because I think it's easier. I know with my kids, if your child's having a birthday around then, it's easier to get invitations out to just send them to school and invite everybody rather than trying to get in touch with everybody. And in the summer, everybody scatters, but we host a ton of groups, a ton of fundraisers and things in the spring and summer, and we're pretty jammed in the schedule. So anybody that wants to book something, I encourage you to reach out sooner rather than later because things will fill up.
I don't have the information in front of me, but it like includes a slice of pizza, a drink, and like an hour or two worth of rides. It's a really nice package, and I know you can go on your website. It's, I believe, oceancityfun.com.
Yep, that's correct. You can go right online, click group sales, and then there's a form online. You can submit your information with your contact info and then what date you're looking for and what package. And yeah, we have packages that include 1 or 2 hours of rides, either strictly rides or ones with food. They come with the party area that we have for you and hostess. We offer extras, add-ons, go-karts, miniature golf passes if it's something they're interested in. And hopefully when we get the arcade going again, we'll be able to offer the arcade cards again as a bonus for that. But it's really a good package. If you're coming here with a group, it's a nice way to take advantage of it and get a little bit of a break as well.
And it's also worth mentioning, if you're looking for a job at Playlands, Castaway Cove, there's also a place where you can apply online at oceancityfun.com.
Absolutely. Yeah, we encourage everybody to go on there. I try to reach out to everybody within a day or two and try to schedule an interview and get that going. And like I said, we've already started interviewing. It's never too early to start. We want to try to lock in our staff as quickly as we can. And that's good for us and it's good for them, knowing that they don't have the stress of going out in the spring and looking. They've already got something that hopefully they'll enjoy for the summer.
Well, before we wrap this up, I got a couple of Ocean City food questions for you. Best slice of pizza on the island?
I mean, obviously, I'm biased. I have to say Preps Pizza.
Mm-hmm.
I think Preps is great. I think it's the best pizza on the boardwalk. I also, in the wintertime, I really enjoy Pacini's Pizza. I like that wood taste to it. They really do a great job there. You can't beat Pacini's too. Yeah,
I love Pacini's. How about breakfast? Where do you go for breakfast?
Varsity Inn and Hooked on Breakfast. They're definitely our top two go-to places for my wife and I when we go out, either ourselves or take the kids. They both do a great job. Love the menus. And I know Varsity is under new ownership. I've heard great things, but the old owners were fantastic. And again, same thing, Hooked on Breakfast. I went to high school with Alicia and her husband who own that, and they do a fabulous job, and they give back a lot to the community as well. So that's always a bonus. Those are the kind of people you really want to support.
And where are you getting your seafood from?
It's funny. I grew up here at the shore my whole life. I grew up in Summers Point. Now I live in Ocean City, and I don't eat any seafood. We never had it. My parents never made it. They never ate it. So
you're an anomaly.
We went to dinner last night. We had this conversation with the couple we went to dinner with. But, I know a lot of people go to Spatafora's. I know that's their big place. And then the steamer place on 34th Street seems to really be a Top Sales, I think it's called, a really good place that they do it in that big steaming bucket and dump it out on a table. I've seen a lot of people doing that for their get-togethers in the summer.
Any other restaurants you want to mention on or off the island that are go-tos for you?
Yeah, I mean, anytime we get subs, we love Sacco Subs right there on Asbury Avenue. Always does a great job. And then on the boardwalk, in the summertime, we're always looking for different things to eat because we're here 6-7 days a week. So eating pizza every day kind of gets old. So we love the Hula Grill and Dell's up here on the boardwalk. They're kind of our go-to places for some good meals.
Very nice. And when do you anticipate your next day off going to be?
My next day off will be this weekend. I've got about 2 more weekends of days off. And then once we get to March, it starts to become 6-7 days a week and longer days. Again, we start putting things up out in the park. We're starting to do hiring and job fairs and interviewing, and we'll start training. So definitely starts to get to be longer days. My wife dreads this time of year. Basically, she knows that once we get to daylight savings time, I kind of disappear for a couple months.
Are the kids excited?
The kids are always excited. They love springtime. I love daylight savings. That extra hour when you have the daylight is really, for me, the best thing. But, we get calls, and it's great to see people in the spring because they've gone 6 months without coming here to Ocean City, and people just love coming here. They love being up on the boardwalk. Even you get a nice day this time of year on a weekend, and it's packed up there. They just want to come to Ocean City. They love it. And as soon as some other things start to open in the spring, whether it's rides, golf, go-karts, anything that gives them something else to do for the family, the kids really look forward to it. It's great to see the happiness on their faces when they're here.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you being on the podcast, Brian. You have a good one.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Brian.